This is Daryl, and I'm running macOS Monterey version 12.0.1. I was experimenting with Apple's private relay feature, including getting some Wireshark captures, and I found something interesting. Here is my Ethernet 1 interface. You can see that I do not have an internet routable IPv6 address. I only have an IPv4 address because I've turned off IPv6 on my router for this experiment. I have an Apple One account, so I'm eligible to enable the Apple Private Relay feature. You can do that by going into the System Preferences and clicking on the Apple ID. Once there, you can click on the Private Relay button to enable the Private Relay Beta, and there is an Options button. Here are the Private Relay options, and the only option is how localized the IP address is that you will be relaying through, and that will help determine whether websites that you go to would tailor products specifically to your general location or a more generalized country and time zone location. Here I am in my Safari browser. I'm going to go to whatismyv6.com while I run a Wireshark capture outside of the viewing area. So firing up my Wireshark capture now, and then going to whatismyv6.com. Let me do an IPv6 only test. And you can see I got there. Oh, let me stop the Wireshark capture. Okay, you can see I got there. I was able to get there with an IPv6 address, even though we already saw that I do not have IPv6 enabled on my Mac because I turned off IPv6 on my home network. Let's use Whois to look up the IP addresses. First of all, here's my IP address. This is RFC 1918 address space. But the IP address that the whatismyv6.com I came from, at least the IPv4 address, was 104.28.123.179. And that is not the IP address that I NAT to when I go to the internet. I currently use Comcast, and Comcast gives me a different IPv4 address. So I did the Whois command to see who that is, and that address block is actually allocated to Cloudflare. And then when I go down and I went ahead and did the Whois on the IPv6 address that we saw later, that also was allocated to Cloudflare. Although sometimes when I've done this private relay test, I've seen the IPv6 address come from Akamai. And that is interesting. The websites that might try to track me by IP address are not able to because they don't see the IP address coming from me. They see the IP address coming from Cloudflare or Akamai, which of course is one of the whole purposes of private relay. Let's take a look at that Wireshark capture while I was accessing the website. And in my Wireshark capture, I have a total of 136 packets. And you can see I have the vast majority of them are going between my IP address, which is RFC 18 address space, and 17.248.245.232. This is an Apple IPv4 address because Apple IP addresses start with 17. And if we scroll through, we can just eyeballing it, we can see there's a little bit of traffic to 162.125.7.20. We'll have to check out what that is, but almost everything is going to the 17 net. And you can see that much of it is the QUIC protocol. QUIC, in this case, is running over UDP. The destination port on the server is UDP port 443. QUIC is a new protocol developed by Google, which is designed to transport web traffic and encrypt web traffic if it's running on port 443, and they're trying to improve on TCP. TCP can have some slowness. If you lose a few packets, you can have or you lose a few segments, you can have head of line blocking, and TCP, you have to do the encryption on the entire stream. With QUIC, since it's running over UDP, they can try to optimize it, and they can encrypt it packet by packet. And if you have separate HTTP requests, you can send them in separate UDP packets, and one packet getting dropped will not cause head of line blocking for another packet being dropped. Well, that's just a quick overview of QUIC. There's far more to it, but let's get back to this. If you remember, my web request to the web server looked like it was coming from Cloudflare. However, I'm not talking to Cloudflare. I am talking to Apple. So Apple must be proxying my request to Cloudflare, which is then proxying the request onto the client. And that's one of the whole points of the relay, the protected relay, is because it's doing a double relay, and neither relay understands everything about what's going on. So the websites can, Cloudflare knows what websites I'm connecting to because Cloudflare is connecting to them on my behalf, but Cloudflare doesn't know who I am because Cloudflare doesn't get my IP address. Cloudflare just sees it coming from Apple. Meanwhile, Apple knows who I am because I'm connecting to Apple, but presumably Apple is not decrypting this traffic. Apple is just proxying it onto Cloudflare. So while Apple knows who I am, Apple doesn't know what websites I am connecting to. The other interesting thing is that in the end, I was able to access the websites over IPv6, even though I only have IPv4 connectivity at home. Now that's interesting. It's not quite a full IPv6 tunnel because this is only working within the Safari application. If I went ahead and did a ping 6 or a traceroute 6 or used a different browser that wasn't using this double proxy, I could not access IPv6 only websites. I could not ping them. But inside Safari, I can access IPv6 only websites, as I just showed by clicking on the IPv6 only test. In fact, in some circumstances, the Safari will choose and connect. I've seen some cases where it chose and connected to the website over IPv6. Here's an example of that. I just went to Aaron.net, which is a dual stack website, and even though my computer is IPv4 only, Aaron saw me coming from an IPv6 address. In fact, the same Cloudflare IPv6 address. Wrapping up, I found it very interesting that even though I am currently operating in an IPv4 only environment, I can access IPv6 only websites using the Apple Private Relay feature. So that's not the goal of the feature. The goal of the feature is to try to improve privacy by preventing the websites by tracking you by IP address. As an IPv6 fan, I found that that made me happy.